Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jagrat Swapna Sushuptishu Sputatara Yasam Vid Ujrumbhate Ya Brahmadi Pipilikanta Tanushu Prota Jagat Sakshini Saivaham na Chadrishyavastviti Dridha Prajnapi Yasyasti Ched Chandalostu Satudvijostu Guru Rityesha Manisha Mama जागृत स्वप्न सुषुप्तिषु स्फुटतरा या संविदुजृंभते ब्रह्मादि पिपीलिकांत तनुषु प्रोता जगत् साक्षिणी सैवाहं न च दृश्यवस्त्विति दृढ प्रज्ञापि यस्यास्ति चेत् चाण्डालोऽस्तु सतु द्विजोऽस्तु गुरुरित्येष मनीषा मम. So that is the first verse. We'll look at it today. All right. So we had an introduction last week on the context of how Adi Shankara comes across this Chandala. Chandala, we said, was the Panchama Jati. Comes across and he asks him to move aside. It was very natural because he is a disgusting looking fellow. Despise is the first emotion that comes out. Bibitsa. And you want the person to move aside. So, and then plus Adi Shankara considers himself, or he moves, and see, we are talking about 8th century. So he is in a particular, he's in a robe. He carries himself with a particular sense of authority, where he is trying to spread Vedanta. So whether you like it or not, when you have done enough number of debates and you win over debates, there is a gentle ego that will also start building up, right? Which is what has happened to Adi Shankar also to some extent, because he's been winning over debates. And those times, that is how it was. Through Samvada, Vivada, you try to debate and you win over the other's philosophy. And that's how you spread the philosophy. So he was also doing that. And then when you get to that, you get a particular sense of authority that this philosophy that I'm teaching and spreading. If you also remember, we spoke about Prativadi Bhayankaram Anna in the one who had composed Venkateshwara Suprabhatam. So he was a terror, Prativadi Bhayankaram. People to come and give him that name. Although you would say somebody who was a bhakta should be a gentle, a very devout, ayopavam kind of a person, right? It's not necessarily that. Wherever you have to demonstrate, which is why all of these avatars are also equally important. Narayana's all avatars are important. Narasimha avatar is also an important avatar. If you have to demonstrate a particular strength within you, you have to demonstrate that strength. Right? You can't be like a doormat everywhere, right? So it's called Prativadi Bhayankaram Anna. It doesn't mean that he is Bhayankaram for everybody, right? He is Bhayankara for the Prativadi, the one who is coming and standing in front of him to debate. So such a person is a terror. Terror means what? He's not going to beat him up and make him accept his theory or philosophy. The arguments that he'll put across, the other person will not be able to face it and stand it and respond to it. So in the same way, Adi Shankara was also going around doing this. And so he would have developed a particular sense of authority in his head. And you see a Chandala, and then just walking in the Kashi streets one morning and you're seeing a Chandala, you'll telling move. So when he's asking to do that, then suddenly this Chandala retorts back with Vedanta. Who are you asking to move? This body, which is inert, it cannot move. Are you asking this Atma or this Chaitanya to move? Where can it move? There's no place to go because it is everywhere. It is all pervasive. Where can space go? Space cannot go anywhere. Wherever you go, space is there. Space is already there. Because space is the only thing that is there. Everything else, vastu iti, all the drishya vastu iti, all the vastu that you see is existing in space. So then the Chandala explains to him that, and then suddenly he shakes up. Because it's always true when somebody gives you the philosophy that you are teaching, we should have the wisdom and the sensibility to receive it. நீ யார் எனக்கு சொல்றதுக்கு? We can go into that kind of an attitude also. Who are you to tell me? I know what I am doing. I know what I am teaching. But a true sadhaka, a true seeker, a true renunciant will always be watchful. That awareness should always be there. Because the teaching can come from anywhere. So he is getting this teaching from Chandala, but he has now received that teaching. That's the important thing. The whole story and the whole Manisha Panchakam has come out because Adi Shankara was humble enough to receive that teaching from the lowest of the jati. Think about 800 AD, 8th century, right? Now 700, 780, 750, 780. Unbelievable, right? Even during the whole Harijan movement that we had in India, the Dalit movement and all that, even at that time it was considered to be significantly revolutionary during the 1900s, 1900s, and we're talking about 1200 years ago, when these caste systems are so rigid. And for him to receive that and also accept it from a Chandala is a pretty revolutionary attitude that he is displaying there. So he is accepting it, and now from him he is starting to in understanding of that, the Chandala has given this Vedanta. Now Adi Shankara, this extempore, there is this flow of knowledge that is coming out of him. And it is not flow of knowledge, it is more of a surrender, a feeling of surrender to say that whosoever is displaying this knowledge, to me such a person is a guru. He is a Sadguru. He is the Sadguru. I don't mean Jaggi Vasudeva. I mean Sat Guru. He is considered to be a Sat Guru. So that what is acknowledgement? In a way, it is an acknowledgement by Adi Shankara to say that I acknowledge that whenever there is such knowledge comes from, be it a small child, be it a Chandala, be it male, female, from whoever, I consider such person as a guru. So this is, every verse is about that. But then every verse he ends with that. Chandalostu satudvijostu guruhu iti esha manisha mama. Whether it is a Chandala, Chandalostu, Satu, Dvija. Dvija is a Brahmin. Chandala is a the lowest caste. So may he be of the lowest caste or of the highest caste, a Brahmin caste, a Dvija. Satu, Dvija astu. Guruhu iti esha manisha mama. Such a person is a guru, is my firm conviction. Dridha Nishchaya, Dridha determination, my conviction. Manisha. Manisha means conviction. So this is what he says with every verse. Okay. Now the first verse, and every verse he reminds himself of the ideas of Vedanta, which goes to say that this particular entity that is here, this consciousness that I'm experiencing as myself, this consciousness is not governed by any of these processes on the outside. It is not governed by anything that you do or you don't do. It is not governed by any way you are or you are not. It is like the Surya, like the sun. You've discussed this in Aditya Hridayam. Very beautiful, right? Whether you're standing and looking at the sun or not looking at the sun, does the sun care? He said, even if the earth spins off into space, goes into a tangent into space, the sun will not bother a bit. Right? In the same way, this consciousness that is there inside, that is not impacted by anything that you do. The activities of sadhana that we do are cleansing ourselves in a way so that we can recognize that I am that. I am not all the things that I was cleansing. When I'm taking the ore out of the gold, the ore is what we think we are, but as we start peeling it, we are also discarding it. We are peeling, saying, I am not this piece, I am not this piece, I am not this piece, I am not this piece. What remains is that piece of gold, to recognize that that is my true nature. I have never been, even though the ore was so tightly stuck onto me, I never was any of those pieces of the ore. That is the knowledge. That is the understanding. So now, by removing the ore or retaining the ore, does the gold there get impacted by any way? The gold itself doesn't care really. So then the question is, who is it who cares? So then there are different philosophies that come about, right? Advaita Vedanta says it's illusion. You caring about it is an illusion. It is a thief who appeared, a burglar who appeared in your dream, and you're trying to chase him while you're awake. The burglar who came up in your dreams, he came and ransacked your house. Suddenly you woke up and you say, now let me go run behind the thief. You keep running your whole life. Right? So that is because we are believing that that burglar really exists, or that burglar that appeared in the dream is a real vastu, a real entity, and I need to go behind it. And then there are other philosophies which deal with this. Who is it that is suffering? What Buddhism says, who is it that is suffering? Who is wanting to know this? If somebody went to Ramana saying, I have so much difficulty, Ramana, and he is crying. And then one of the bhakta says in front of Ramana, Ayo, Ganga is here. The bhakta is pointing out to Ramana Maharshi and saying, Ganga is here, and this man is thirsty. He's sitting at the banks of Ganga and he's crying that I don't have water. This bhakta is saying. Bhakta is saying, this man who's saying, I'm suffering, I'm suffering. It's like you're sitting on the banks of river Ganga. You just have to dip into it and drink water. You're thirsty, drink water. No? Then Ramana says, no, 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 it is not like that. It is as though Ganga herself is crying. So it is, we are assumed that we are different. We have assumed that I am suffering. I've assumed that I am thirsty, I'm hungry, I'm yearning for something. And I'm assuming that I have to go towards it and then consume it so that I'll be satisfied. This whole process is of assumption. So Ramana Maharshi says that whole assumption is false. You yourself are that. Ganga herself is crying that I am thirsty now. Where else will she go? So, like that, who is this suffering? If you're saying I am that, that consciousness is within me, the whole process is of recognizing that consciousness that is inside of me is also outside of me. Whether we give it whatever name, we give it Paramatma, we give it Narayana, we give it Sadashiva, we call it Parashakti, Ambal Devi, whatever name we give, there is a presence that we experience within us, right? The problem is our attention doesn't stay on the presence. The attention is always in the mind, which is why he says, Mana Isha Mama. Mana Isha means I am now rising above the mind. One of the translations of Manisha is conviction. This is my conviction. But what does it also mean? That I am recognizing that which is above my mind, the Lord of the mind, Mana Isha. And what is that? The Lord of the mind is that which observer that is there, that observer that is always present, always observing even the mind. I want to establish myself in that. And it's a fascinating process. It is not about gaining powers. It is not about gaining something. It is not about suddenly, I've understood this, understood that. No. It is about resting in that understanding, knowing that I, that is always been there, does not get impacted by any of this that is happening. It is that recognition that, right, and more like losing that you have gained. Hariom Bhunaja. This is like Buddha went back to the kingdom, Kapilavastu, um, after his enlightenment. He goes back to the kingdom. And his cousin is there. Devavrata, is it? No, not Devavrata. Um, Deva something, I don't remember. So he is the one who's always been giving him trouble. So he asked him, when he comes back, Buddha comes back, he asks him, you went a king, you went into the forest as a prince 8 years ago, and you come back with just one robe and a begging bowl. What did you gain? So to that, Buddha says, I didn't gain anything, but I lost. I lost ego, I lost anger, I lost hatred, I lost jealousy, I lost. So, like that. But what happens is in the process, see, the problem is process is important, but the process only starts making sense when what you're trying to get to is very clear. That must be established extremely clearly. Otherwise, you get lost in the process. Oh, I did this much, I did that much, I did this. All of that becomes more important. That is all relevant and meaningful only if that particular understanding is dawning upon us. If that recognition is becoming dridha prajna. These are words I'm just picking up from the verse that is there. Dridha prajna api yasyasti chet. So he says, the one whose prajna is dridha, the attention has been established with absolute conviction. So this is a problem in a daily basis, right? We don't know where should we bring our attention to. And bringing that attention inwards, bringing our attention within ourselves to notice that which is not moving, that which is always there, that which is continuously existing as consciousness. My hands may get cut off, my legs may get cut off, my mind may go, I may be sane mind, I may be insane, but that consciousness is still pulsating, right? That consciousness doesn't bother about all of this. The value that we have as a human being is for us to recognize that consciousness is my presence. See, it is all what association you create. Like Vivekananda said, drop all desires except one. So he says there is only one desire, the desire for God. The only desire that is worth having is the desire for God. So otherwise, all other desires, you say you drop them, right? Chitteshana, Vitteshana, Lokeshana, Putreshana, all of these Yeshanas that are there, you drop them. But he says, don't drop all of them. Hold on to one desire, which is God. He said that in a very simplistic way. But what it means is hold on to that one desire within you to say that I want to be attached and associated with this one thing. That's it. Which is not changing, which does not move, which does not get uh, defined or redefined by what I do, what I am, how I am. It is as it is. So he now talks about the states, various states. That is the first verse. He starts pointing out, and listen, when he is telling it to the Chandala, Adi Shankara here, it is also a way of him reminding himself. And also his Sishyas are there. So there are other people maybe there, and when obviously he is not, it is not that after the incident, Adi Shankara went into a room and started writing this. It's not like that, right? It is a composition that flowed out of him. So there are people listening, there are Sishyas listening. So it is also a way of teaching to them and also a reminder to himself. How does he go? Jagrat swapna sushuptishu sputatara yasam vid ujrumbhate. Jagrat swapna sushuptishu sputatara. In all the three states. Jagrat swapna sushupti. All the three states. There is a whole Upanishad written on this, Mandukya Upanishad, on the three states, Akara, Ukara, Makara, and the Turiya. And see, sometimes these verses, they just sum it up in a very, very, very condensed manner. But when you expand, you can actually spend a lot of time just on one concept. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. These are three states. Waking state. Right now in the waking state, the waking consciousness, you are aware. Then when you sleep off, the waking consciousness is gone. You are in dream. In the dream, you are aware of what? The dream. You are not aware of the waking. Your experiences of the dream. There is a dreamer who is dreaming and there are dream objects. And then after that, there is a dreamless sleep, which is what they call as deep sleep. You are not awake, you are not dreaming, but there is a particular silence within you. Deep sleep. All of us experience these three. There are many, many states. Okay, if you go to a psychiatrist or a neuropsychologist, he will say there are many, many states in between, obviously. But to understand a concept, we are trying to use this example, right? It is not about, oh, what about those states? I come out of dream, come back to waking, and then go back and go back and all that. No, we're not trying to complicate that, because the idea is not to do a scientific analysis. The idea is to understand that there is something that is continuously present during all of this. It is I who is awake. I go to sleep. I am the one who is dreaming, right? And then in my dream, I create. My wife comes and slaps me in my dream. I can't get up and slap her in real time, right? I mean, I can never do that, but I'm saying. So it doesn't make sense. There is no, you cannot bring the two together. They're completely isolated. The dream world and the dream individuals, the dream creation, everything is within the dream consciousness only. Somebody asked a teacher, Guru, is this world reality or a dream? He said it is a dream, but in the dream it is real. Which is what it is. If I tell you it is a dream, you will not acknowledge, I mean, you can't accept it because you're feeling everything is real. That's similar to saying that in the dream everything feels real. Even though, like we said the other day, even though your great grandmother or your grandmother comes suddenly, and then your friend from somewhere comes, and you'll be you in the dream, you'll not wonder how did you guys come together, right? You won't wonder that. It'll just seem natural. And you'll also seem dreams are jumpy. Suddenly you'll get something, somewhere you are somewhere. So those things will happen in the dream, and yet it will feel appropriate because it's in the dream consciousness, in the dream world. It has its own laws and regulations there, rules and regulations, that the way. And interestingly, dreams never are of things that you have not seen or not experienced. The dream is always of what you have experienced and what you've seen. Right? So this is your dream world. Somebody else's dream world is entirely their own. So in your experience, I see this dream, and then I go into deep sleep. And then from deep sleep, I wake up. Right? Now, when I wake up, do I see this as a broken experience, or do I see it, I continued through all of this? You don't experience that I went to sleep and somebody else woke up. It's not like that, right? You don't experience that. You still feel the I. The I that you're experiencing as a very intimate experience continues through all the three. So Swapna, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushuptishu. Sushuptishu means in those three states, Sputatara, that which is clearly, ya Samvit Ujrumbhate, which means that which is shining amongst these three. Resplendent, shining. Now, why is this? Somebody needs to tell this to us. Why can't we experience this? That is because our attention is not there. Nochur Swami will always say, Gavanam, Gavanam konduvangu. Bring your attention, bring your attention. The whole process of sadhana, the whole process of conscious living, the whole process of spiritual development is bringing attention. Why does somebody have to tell this to us, which is already in my experience? It's because it is not in my attention. It is not in my, it may be in my experience, but it is not in my conscious recognition. This is the whole difference, right? You talk about a Mahan who's a self-realized person, right? Be it a Vedanta Desika or a Ramanuja or a Adi Shankara or a Neem Karoli Baba. When they're expressing this, they're in a particular state of realization. The difference between them and us is the way they perceive the world. That's all. The way they perceive this world and us. That is all. That is all is the difference. Perception that we carry of the world and myself. The way I perceive and way this person who's sitting beside me is an experience or a self-realized person. The perception is different. That is the only thing. And why there is so much of struggle, why there is so much of work that we have to do, sadhana, yatra, japa, dhyana, shloka, reading, adhyaya, swadhyaya, all of that. Why do we do is because nama sankirtana, all of that is to shift that perception. Can we look at the world in the most compassionate way? Can we look at the world that this is the way it is going to be anyways? Can we look at the world that it will always be unfair? I'm not going to expect fairness from the world. Can I look at the world to say that I am not here to fix it? Can we look at the world to say that I am not the one who's going to judge this and say, oh, you should be like this, you should be like that? No. Can we look at the world in that way? Somebody comes to me, I give them love, joy, I share whatever I have. Can I look at the way to say, oh, I have to carry the flag of my guru and go and establish this? Can I not look at the world that way? See, the moment you start looking at the world like this, immediately there is differentiation, your distinction, creating distinction. The moment you go to a children home and you start giving children something, or an old age home and do something for the old age people, or an ashram, and you say, Ayo Pavam, poverty, you're going to give them money and all that, you're already creating the distinction that you're privileged and they are the underprivileged. You've created that distinction. And the moment you've created that distinction in your head, your actions will all follow that. Perception. The moment you start perceiving the world differently, oh, these are people who are not spiritually, so I have to not spiritually tuned, so I have to make them spiritual. If you start seeing the world as as distinct from you, that I have something to give and they have to receive it, you finished. It is never an active engagement that way. Masters who have done, Vivekananda went to the West and did this because his guru told him to go do it. He just did it simply. There is no air about himself. He wasn't carrying any this thing. He just had to do. He did it and he moved on. And of course, there are people who are of that stature. Vivekananda was a person who could recognize. He knew where he had to shut up. He knew where he had to speak. Have we developed that level of understanding? All that comes from perception. We have to develop the way to perceive the world. This is all it is. And then your attention remains inside that. Jagrat swapna sushuptishu sputatara ya samvid ujrumbhate. That which is shining within me all the time. My attention remains on that, not on the world, not on the people, not on the actions, not on the events. Remains on that. Ya brahmadi pipilikanta tanushu prota jagat sakshini. That which is from the Brahmadi, from Brahma himself, the Lord, the Creator, it's that consciousness. Pipilika Anta, it is Anta, Pipilika Anta. The Anta is to the ant. Pipilika means an ant. From the Brahma, from the universe, from the largest being that you can imagine, to the smallest creature, which is Pipilika, it is the Ya Brahmadi, Brahma Adi Pipilika Anta Tanushu in their bodies. Prota Jagat Sakshini, that which remains as, dwells as Jagat Sakshini, as the witness of this whole creation. Now, very, very, very beautiful observation I want you all to make here is Adi Shankara doesn't say Jagat Sakshi, he says Adi Jagat Sakshini. He makes a reference of it, Kshini, as though that is Devi inside you. Suddenly you're not, this is the way, and you can completely miss it and go through too. But he suddenly made a reference of Jagat Sakshini in the first verse itself. It says Devi is sitting within you, that creatrix. And also one way of saying that there is no there is no male female here. See, the whole thing, Esha, Manisha, Mama, all of that is all of that is in the feminine. You able to see me? Is the video okay now? Okay. All of that is in the feminine. Esha, Manisha, Mama. Jagat Sakshini. Because Ujrumbhate, it is shining. It's an action, right? It's all as though it is an action. And as though that Sakshini, the activity, there is an activity of Jagat Sakshini, activity of observing. Whenever there is action, there is activity, you usually refer to it as a feminine aspect. Jagat Sakshini. सैवाहं न च दृश्यवस्त्विति दृढप्रज्ञापि यस्यास्ति चेत् स एव अहम्. I am that alone. Sa eva saha eva aham. Sorry, saha sa. So I have to fix that in the document because saivaham. Saivaham means I. The I matra would come in that sandhi when it is sa and eva. Sa eva aham. Sa is what? Again, the feminine. So he is now referring to consciousness as feminine. Sakshini, sa eva aham. I am that. Aham eva sa. In Sanskritam, saha is that which you're pointing to that as masculine. When you're pointing to something as feminine, it is sa. Sa eva aham, saiva aham, nacha drishya vastu iti. I am that Jagat Sakshini alone. I am that principle that is observing everything. Nacha drishya vastu. I am not that which is seen. I am the seer. I am not the drishya vastu. Those who are familiar with this, we'll do this sometime. Drig drishya viveka. Swami Vidyaranya's Drig drishya viveka. Drig is the seer. Drishya is the seen. My forms are the seen. I is the seer. My eyes are seeing the forms. Ears are listening to sounds. So these are all becomes the seer, hearer, listener, taster, smeller. So this is the subject. These are the objects. Then you go a level further. Now, who can see whether the eye is dull or the eye is unclear? The eye is not able to see. The eye is only able to see this color, that color, this form. Who is able to see this from within you is the mind. The mind can see the variations of the eye. It can know the variations of the ear. It can know the variations of the taste, tongue. Although the tongue can taste different tastes, the mind knows whether the tongue today is become thick, the tongue is feeling itchy, the tongue is feeling uh, even otherwise feeling bitter, whatever. There is something within us that knows the state of the tongue. That we call the mind. And then a step further, there is something within us which knows the state of the mind. I know my mind is dull. I know my mind is sharp. I know my mind is now able to think. My daughter will always say, Appa, please don't tell me anything. My brain is not braining. Abdimbo. புது term ஒண்ணு. My brain is not braining. Don't tell me anything. சரிம்மா அப்படி. So you're able to recognize that your mind or your intellect, the state of the mind or intellect, who is able to do this? There is some principle within. So Drigdrishya Viveka, this work, Vidyaranya Swami's work, it takes you step by step to that place where it says, no, be there. From where you're observing all of this. The same thing. Same thing Adi Shankara is saying. He's saying, I am not the Drishya Vastu. I am not the Vastu that is perceived. I am the perceiver. Jagat Sakshini. Sa eva aham. I am that. Can I go back to that and pay attention to that which is observing everything? So you go into that silence and you become this eternal observer. Swami Vivekananda visited a disciple. The disciple want to understand, Gurudev, you're talking about illusion, you're talking about all of this is, uh, in the, it's about perception and all that. How do I experience this? Then Swami Vivekananda is sitting there, and suddenly Swami Vivekananda gives him a kind of a vision. So what happens is, and this disciple is sitting in front of him, for him suddenly everything starts becoming hazy. It becomes blurry, like our Sri Vidya's image at the background, that blurry zoom thing we put now, like that. It starts becoming blurry, and the objects become blurry, the room becomes blurry, hazy. So it's there. There's no sense whether it is there or not there, right? It starts becoming, in his perception, it starts becoming that. And when he looks at his guru Vivekananda, he is also becoming that. He is also becoming blurry. He is also becoming, um, in uh, not real. In a way, he's also when he's looking at him, he's also becoming just like a hazy image, and he's going in and coming out of perception. So this man is there for a while in that experience. And then Vivekananda snaps him out. Tells him asks him, what did you see? He said, everything was vanishing off in my experience. Everything was dissolving in my experience. He said, what about me? Vivekananda asks. No, before that he asks, what about your body? He says, yeah, my body was also feeling as though it was just dissolving. Parts were, in my experience, it was all becoming superfluous. It was becoming, the reality of it was dissolving. Then he asks, what about me? He says, you were also dissolving. You were also not seen as something real. He said, that is the truth. See, that which we consider as guru or acharya or this thing, that thing is also part of our perception. It is also in our perception. Because what is in reality and truth is only your own existence, your own conscious existence, your own conscious experience. And when we come to that conscious experience within you, then the association of Paramatma, the association of Bhagavan becomes more meaningful. Otherwise, they remain as objects on the outside. Drishya Vastu. They become a Drishya Vastu. See, how much ever I'm going to fall at the feet of Krishna, he is not going to liberate me like that. Although he says, Sarva Dharman Varidhya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhya Moksha Ishyami Ma Shucha. I will give you moksha, don't worry, Arjuna. That is because he's telling it to Arjuna. We have to understand this. We think he's telling it to everybody. We have to become like an Arjuna who has to completely, in your mind, thought, being, deed, recognize that which I am falling at is indeed this vastu that is there. This principle that is pulsating within me is that consciousness that is pulsating. And then you say, I give you moksha, then there is meaning. Otherwise, it is a term that you keep repeating. Like Jiddu Krishnamurti will say, you say Coca-Cola or Rama Rama, it doesn't make a difference, right? Doesn't make a difference. Saying Rama Rama, you might as well say Coca-Cola. At least somebody will come and give you a Coca-Cola. You say Rama Rama without that conscious awareness and attention, what will you get? So stop seeing everything as a drishya vastu, which means an object of it is not. Don't make Bhagavan, Guru, all of these things as an object. Make it as a subject, make it your experience, bring it into your experience. That is what he's saying. Sa eva aham. I am that Jagat Sakshini. Jagat Sakshini, I am that eternal witness. Nacha drishya vastu. Not that object of perception, not that object. Then he's saying in whose consciousness this determination is there. Dridha prajna api yasya asti chet, yasya asti chet. The one whose heart and mind and perception is convinced with this truth, such a person, may he be a Brahmana, a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, or a Shudra, or a Chandala, he is my Guru. Saha Guru iti esha Manisha Mama. So the first verse, he talks about this. We have run over by 8 minutes, but we'll just close out. So he starts off the first verse saying that please notice this. Notice this one thing that is running in through you, through all your experiences, through all your states of mind, through all your states of consciousness, through all your experiences in life, through all the good, bad, and ugly that you're going through all that anybody is telling about you, you are telling about anybody, through all the events that are happening, through all the ages that you're crossing through all the interactions and relationships that you're having. This is constant. Bring your attention to that. Doesn't matter. And then stop looking. Even spirituality, don't objectify it. Don't make it as an object. Even seva or a sadhana, don't make it an object and objectify it and glorify it. No. If your attention is not on this, then you're losing the plot. Losing the plot. Right? There's a movie, Satish, my cousin is here. He'd know this. Khichdi அப்படின்னு ஒரு movie. அதுல வந்து, so there's this couple who completely out of context, they will start. So they'll start with something and then they'll go completely out of context. And then the other person will say, Mudda kya hai? What is the main thing? Main kya hai? They'll say, what is the main thing? You need to hold on to that main thing. I'm sorry, I'm not able to complete the joke, but it's interesting. Those who follow Hindi can watch that movie. But that is important. What is the main thing in your life? Have we established that clearly? Otherwise, it's all drama, right? Everything is just drama. Because once you know, we've seen people who are on the bed, immobile, not able to do anything, and they're stuck in life. Do we want to be stuck? Till the body and the mind is in my control, it listens to me, let us make sure that it continues to listen to me when it starts fading away. It starts decaying. That is most important. So that main thing, let's identify what is that main thing and hold on to that and recognize that not looking at things as an object, but as a subjective experience. We establish and develop that subjective experience with it. And then it will spill out on its own, in whatever form it will spill out. Let's not take it as a mission or an action. Let it spill out on its own in joyful ways to others. Okay, so that is the first verse. Jagrat swapna sushuptishu sputatara yasam vid ujrumbhate ya brahmadi pipilikanta tanushu prota jagat sakshini saivaham na chadrishya vastviti dridha prajnapi yasyasti chet chandalostu satu dvijostu guru iti yesha manisha mama. Om कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर् वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि जगदम्बिकेति समर्पयामि सद्गुरुनाथायेति हरि ओं तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः. Gurudeva. Hari Om.